G2A festival here on the Yardfest channel. It's going to be a best of 3 between the Balkan Bears and Moscow 5, so it should be a good one. Though lots of people are favoring BBC here, Moscow 5 have had BBC's number for the past couple of tournaments, if I'm reading everything correctly, but we'll see. This is still the old patch, so don't get too excited, guys, but it should be a good one nonetheless. I'm Mikelorus, going to be joined by GrandisV for this best of 3, and it looks like we're already going to have some pretty heavy hitters, dude.
Yeah, right now, Queen of Pain for Balkan Bears and Juggernaut Magnus for Moscow 5. Maybe just get a little bit excited, but yeah, I think you are correct. Moscow 5 have been doing traditionally very well against Balkan Bears. In fact, the last 3 series, they haven't dropped a game to BBC. So even though BBC generally are a very good team, I think Moscow 5 have a pretty good read on their playstyle this patch. Storm Spirit's going to follow up the Queen of Pain for Balkan Bears. Pretty interesting, too, to see that as a second pick. Although it is possible to see Storm Spirit in a safe lane with Queen of Pain mid, or Queen of Pain offlane Storm Spirit mid, or any number of different shuffling arounds of these heroes. It's pretty interesting to see them paired as the first 2.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen teams do this a little bit in the past, and it really does depend on the early mid-game stage. If you get shut down or slowed down at all, then you're probably going to be in a lot of trouble down the line. But if you do have a semi-decent start, then the aggressive power of these 2 heroes, combined with the aggressive power of, say, oh, I don't know, an Undying, could really get you a very quick win. Moscow 5, they do have heroes that can fight early, but with the Magnus Juggernaut as their opening, they're planning on a little bit more of a slower farmy type game. Get the stacks going, get the Juggernaut super farmed, and then wipe everyone out in the late game, but I don't know if BBC are going to let that happen.
Yeah, this is a very aggressive opener coming out from them, and a very scary one too, if BBC are able to get levels up. For the Queen of Pain and Undying in particular, Storm Spirit can always fall back to the jungle and catch up that way. But Queen of Pain and Undying, if they get the momentum, can really just snowball through Moscow 5. At the moment, there's no great way for them to deal with the zombies. Maybe Juggernaut can spin out, but their range is very lackluster, and they don't have anything like a Bristleback or Gyrocopter to very easily clear those out.
They may not get one of those either down the line, so Undying definitely going to be a difficult hero for Moscow 5 to deal with. Having the Lion as a stunner just to peel the Undying away, peel the Storm Spirit Queen of Pain away, certainly very nice, but as far as an early game brawler, you need a little bit better than a Lion. We have a little bit more of those heavy-hitting support heroes taken out by the BBC's side in the Skywrath Mage and the Ancient Apparition. Those were the second bans, and then Tree Axe, just to try to restrict the aggressive power of BBC coming out from the Moscow 5 side of bans, but it looks like Magnus is probably going to go towards the mid lane, Juggernaut, Lion, +1 as the support. I mean, these lanes of Moscow 5 are fine, but really you need to be very prepared for what's upcoming if you're going up against the BBC draft.
Yeah, Fine doesn't cut it against Balkan Bears heroes that are just very good in the laning stage. In particular, the Queen of Pain and Undying, pretty hard to deal with. Storm Spirit versus Magnus mid, if that is going to be the case, is pretty much a wash, but outside of that, BBC have really potent heroes. It'll be interesting to see how they shuffle around their players and where they throw these lanes down. Undying, it's unclear where he's going to be going for now. Probably in some sort of off lane, whether that's a dual lane or otherwise. Balkan Bears actually picking up a Sand King after the Undying. That's very interesting to me.
You very rarely see these two together, especially if they're both played as the 4 or 5 positions. You have 2 melees, and the Burrow Strike is very nice to partner up with the Undying. If you have a Burrow Strike with a Tombstone already active, that's 1, maybe 2 extra zombies on your target, and that could very well be a kill, but outside of that, your lane presence is very, very lackluster. You won't be able to constantly poke and prod. What you can do is just burst and kill the enemies, and sometimes that's all you need to do, but sometimes you also need that lane presence, and with 2 melee supports, should that be the laning arrangement for BBC, they're going to fall short in that. So, yeah, it is a little bit weird, and Sand King perhaps is going to be playing things more aggressively, possibly a boots first opening for him, very little time spent in the jungle.
And if they do spend the time in the jungle for the Sand King to get his Blink Dagger up at a very fast click, it's going to change the timing of Balkan Bear's aggression by quite a bit. But that said, it could also partner very nicely with Queen of Pain getting like level 8 or so, Undying getting at least level 5, and then Sand King coming out of the jungle with the Blink Dagger for a really big burst of Balkan Bear's aggression. But yeah, it is a very peculiar pick. For Moscow 5, they're going to pick up a Spirit Breaker, and a hero that they're more than comfortable running with is going to give them some aggressive power of their own.
Yeah, they run this hero all the time, and it's another hero that could brawl early and really loves to brawl early, especially when you put him in a core role. It looks like Moscow 5 with a Rubik and Lion, they're going to have CC for days. Maybe a little bit short on the damage in the early stages, but maybe Spirit Breaker Jug Mag will be able to cover that role. This is probably the best that Moscow 5 to hope that they could have hoped for. I mean, they have a lot of stuns for the Storm Spirit, Queen of Pain. That's really good for them. They'll be prepared in that regard. And if they just weather this early mid-game Undying Storm, then they should be able to just ramp up this Juggernaut and take it late. But of course, that's always a little bit risky, so we'll see if that actually comes to be.
5 seconds.
Yeah, at the moment, Balkan Bears, I think they really would have liked to get their hands on a Phoenix for Wii as their 5th pick, but outside of that, there doesn't seem to be any clear choice for them. Balkan Bears at the moment, this is a kind of jumbled up draft. Although these are really good heroes in their own right, they're not usually seen together and partnered in this fashion. And honestly, I have no idea what lane situation they're going to be going for and what they're actually lacking with this 5th.
Maybe they go for a little bit of greed and grab something like a Bristleback, someone who could, maybe scale up into the late game if needed. I mean, obviously you don't have to worry about banning that out, or effectively banning that out, since the Moscow 5 side don't have any more picks left. But they do probably need a hero for Wii, unless they want to put Wii on the Undying and have him get a little bit of acceleration. If you have a fast mech or something like that on Undying, that could really help your pushing, but their pushing really isn't that great, BBC. They're all about the hero killing, so a hero that's off lane yet can offer some pushing, that's a very tall order.
Maybe something like a Jakiro for them, but Balkan Bears, I honestly have no clue. They're down to 45 seconds of their reserve time. They are going to just be, I don't know. I really couldn't say. At the moment, they have really strong initiation with a Blinking Sand King, Queen of Pain, and Storm Spirit, but their scaling damage is somewhat lackluster. But I don't think they can afford entirely to go for something incredibly late.
How about a CM? Just so you get a ton of mana, and then you could just go super aggressive early on.
All of these heroes would love to have a CM Aura at their side. That could be a solid pick, but then it also gets the jungle a little bit crowded. Sand King and CM both like to be inside the woods. It's going to be a Clinks. Wow. Oh, that's a lot harder hitting a hero than I expected.
It's definitely a little bit different from a CM, just a little bit. I would say the similarities are pretty darn sparse there, but okay, Clinks is a hero that, well, he is going to be a dominant jungler, and that's probably just going to be the case every single time. He also has a disgusting amount of pushing power. Like, when you have Strafe, when you actually let loose those searing arrows, towers fall left, right, and center. So it's a hero that we don't see all the time, but hey, we designated the specifications earlier, and BBC found the correct hero, at least a hero that fits all those criteria. We'll see if it actually works out, guys. This is game 1 in the best of 3 between BBC and Moscow 5 from the Yard G2A Fest against. If you go to G2A, put in the Yard code, save 3%. So I don't know how much you're buying, but hell, doesn't matter how much you're buying since 3% is 3%, so it should be good there. This is game 1, and Exist is going to be handling the Clinks for the BBC side. Got Yapsor handling the Sand King, Levi on the Undying. Wee's going to be playing the Queen of Pain, and Hook is going to be on his Storm Spirit.
Slander is going to be playing on the Lion, going very aggressive with boots first, looking to place down that ward, but bumped into one too many of BBC's heroes. And, well, he's going to be supporting the Juggernaut, played by ZXC. Magna is going to be handled by Axmo Rubik, played by Bignum. And last but not least, our Spirit Baker by Tron.
Alright, so for the BBC hero and player assignments, I have seen Wii go a little bit too ham on the Queen of Pain a little bit, and I know Hook's Queen of Pain is something of nightmares. If you're playing up against Hook's Queen of Pain, guys, just run and hide, because he's probably just going to kill you. So they have, obviously Wii is usually going to play the offlane for BBC, and looks like he is heading down there right now, but I can't help but feel that perhaps things could be going a little bit better for BBC, at least personality-wise, if they swap the Queen of Pain and Storm Spirit.
Then again, I don't think that Wii is necessarily a Storm Spirit player, and Hook is also very comfortable on that hero. To each his own. Either way, we're going to see a 1-4 bounty rune trade. Tron gets the bounty rune for the Moscow 5 side, and Storm Spirit for BBC. At the moment, we're going to start things off with a pause, as these lanes are going to shake down with Moscow 5 sending the Juggernaut and Lion to the off lane. I was expecting dual lanes coming out from them, but I thought Juggernaut would go down to safe.
Yeah, it seems a little bit risky. I guess, well, having Tron get a little bit more guaranteed leveling means more charging, therefore the off lane becomes a little bit safer because you have a Spirit Breaker who's always threatening, but this could be perhaps just a read of the lanes that is not really going to be favoring Moscow 5. Obviously, they know that, well, they know that now that Queen of Pain is going to be going in the off lane. There's no great matchup there, but ZXC up towards top is going to be in for a world of hurt. They're going to close him with the Burst Strike already. DK, as well as the Searing Arrow spam. However, Slander's spike is going to peel away the BBC side. That's the amount of burst killing potential that BBC have with these two melee supports. They could go in, and if they land a burst strike, you're going to be taking a lot of damage, and you're going to be lucky if you survive.
Even though they don't get that kill, it's a bad omen for the future. This Juggernaut is not going to be farming safely in the top lane. And honestly, neither is the Spirit Breaker. Left 1v1 versus the Queen of Pain. This is a lane that we can very comfortably, I don't know, control. Although for now, the Spirit Breaker is running with the boots advantage and might be able to apply some pressure to the Queen of Pain if he gets a lucky bash. For the most part, Queen of Pain is going to be running this lane, and mid lane is left Storm Spirit versus Magnus. 1v1, this is pretty even, so that's going to leave BBC slight favorites when it comes to this laning stage.
Even though Spirit Breaker is generally pretty tanky, the ability to Shadow Strike and then kite him means that his tankiness is almost irrelevant just because he's putting no pressure back onto Wii. It looks like the Moscow 5 side will realize this fact and they will just leave. They're going to charge over towards Hook in the mid lane. Axe Mode doesn't have that much mana, so it looks like the Spirit Breaker, even if he should connect with his charge, can't really do much, although, whoa, okay. Thought he was actually going to go for that. Tower diving, 2 minutes in, probably not recommended, but now the swap up, Juggernaut's going to go up against the Queen of Pain, and I guess it's probably better than going up against the Clinks, but not by that much.
No, honestly, I think Moscow 5 just got the lesser half of the exchange when it comes down to this laning stage, and even with just 2 heroes up towards top, or even with just the Clinks, top lane's mostly on lockdown for BBC. That'll free up the Sand King to jungle it up a little bit once he gets his level 3. For the time being, he's just going to farm up some stacks, and they actually drop Levi down towards bottom, keeping up the pressure onto the Jug, making sure that ZXC does not get very much out of this laning stage, already being doubled up by his safe lane counterpart in the Clinks.
Oh, but Wee's going to take a lot of damage. Fade Bolt is there. They hex up onto Levi instead. He has a Tombstone and Decay in a little bit, but the spin is there. Tombstone is dropped. Levi's going to get lifted up into the air. Needs a Decay, but can't quite get it out. We can't really do that much. Only level 3 Queen of Pain. She's going to Shadow Strike Slander. However, the zombies have dissipated, and now ZXC is blocking Slander's way. It looks like this Shadow Strike might get the kill online. Is that level 2? It's only level 1, so there's no kill potential there for Wee unless she blindly jumps into these trees, which the Queen of Pain might. There are 3 very weak targets here, and she is salving up. Oh, Wee has potential for greatness here, or he could play things safe and fall back. He does see Slander retreat, I believe, but it looks like that should just about be the end of it. It's first blood drawn by Moscow 5, although that was very, very close. If Levi had a split second extra, a 3-man Decay, which would have landed if he had the time, would have saved his life and probably turned things around for maybe even 2 kills for BBC.
Oh yeah, for sure. Moscow 5 were also low after that exchange, and even though Undying might have died in that trade, it would have gotten first blood and probably an additional pick for the BBC side. Even so, their solo lanes in top and mid are still doing wonderfully BBC, and they still have access to the eventual jungle farm for the Sand King. They lose first blood, but I don't think that really stops them that much. Even after dying, the Undying and Queen of Pain lane can still function fairly effectively.
Yeah, especially in dual lanes where Undying's going to get a little bit more experience than he ordinarily would. He's going to be brawling 2v3 mostly in this lane, so that's exactly where an Undying wants to be, and that's exactly where BBC want their team as a whole to be, especially since they're not sacrificing anything elsewhere. Like, Yapzor's happily in the jungle. He's usually not going to have the greatest time versus a Spirit Breaker game, but he's doing just fine. Same thing for Exist. Clinks usually dominates his lane, and this time is no exception. Spirit Breaker, definitely a threat. One Spirit Breaker grabs some dust or something like that, but that's not going to come up, at least not yet. So Exist has this lane on lockdown, as Clinks usually do, and Moscow 5, they really can't afford to help their top lane, because if they try to help their top lane, then bottom lane dies.
Slander in mid, smokes around, looking for a wraparound on the Storm. He's way out in front. A Burrow Strike is going to disjoint the line as Axma skewers forward onto Hook. The slow is applied. They get another Shockwave onto him. Hook dropping low, bottling up. He has 4 stick charges as well. There's no real turnaround potential as Yapzor has already spent his mana pool. Can they actually chase down the Storm Spirit? Another Shockwave is going to connect, and Hook's going to turn around with the Earth Spike from the low ground. However, Lion's going to kill off the Storm.
That was an incredibly bold play. I think that only happened because of nighttime. At least the Storm Spirit's turnaround. He would have known if it was day that the Lion was right behind the mag, and then he wouldn't have made that turn. That was a suicide turn, to say the least. So 2v1, Storm Spirit is going to drop Moscow 5 up to a 2-0 lead, which is all very well and good for them. The problem is that they are falling pretty far behind in the CS, especially this Juggernaut, who usually is going to have just completely uncontested farm. Already, 5 minutes in, has to go to his jungle and try to get some creeps there, just because this bottom lane is way too dangerous. And speaking of dangerous, it looks like there's a Tombstone mid-cast for Levi onto Bignum. I don't think that's going to be a kill, although Queen of Pain does have a level 3 Screamer Pain. It very might be a kill.
Yeah, it definitely could. At the moment, Levi's dropping the Tombstone mid-animation of it. I'm tempted to say that Bignum's just dead since the rest of his team isn't close by. If there was a Lion there to offer maybe an Earth Spike or something to interrupt the Queen of Pain going, I think that maybe the Rubik could survive, but with this angle, I'm pretty sure at the very least he's going to be very low and probably just a straight up kill for BBC unanswered.
Do you think you could turn around and telekinesis Levi before his tombstone comes out? That probably takes too much time, right? 'Cause
I have
that
no
would be the
idea.
only way I would see Bignum surviving.
By the way Undying's arms are, it looks like he's almost dropping the tombstone. So I think the turn rate would be too long, but if he just started, maybe there is potential for that. I don't know.
See this Undying, guys? This is the look of someone who's mid-tombstone cast. Just in case anyone was wondering. Yeah, I mean, it is like queued up and everything, so I don't know exactly how long the tombstone cast is. It is pretty long as a skill, just because you need to do the whole arm thing, or otherwise you can't just lift a tombstone without using your arms. That just doesn't make any sense. Come on, guys. But yeah, it looks like Bignum, that would be his only shot. If telekinesis had no, I guess, turn rate. You know what I mean. If you didn't have to turn to cast it, you would be fine, I think.
If Rubik had Io's thing where you can still cast spells without turning.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what to call that. I don't know what that is.
I'm not sure there's a specific word. It's just that Io thing.
That IO thing. The thing that IOs do. The great thing is that you just say that and everyone would know what you're talking about. But outside of Bigdom's potential death, the person disconnected, it is Yapsor tried to help out in mid lane, did slow down the death of the Storm Spirit, but not by much. He is only level 3 right now, but level 3 is really all you need for the Sand King, not with the most stacks in his jungle, although there is a triple quad hard camp stack available to him, and he can clear that one out pretty swiftly.
Yeah, that's a really big infusion of golden experience for the Sand King. That puts him at about 800 or so, I want to say. With that large stack, and that's huge for Sand King. That's pretty much halfway towards his Blink Dagger, a little bit less than that. But even so, he's well on his path towards getting it, even though the medium camps are probably some of the worst at the moment. Mud Golems, this patch, unfortunately for Sand King, cannot be taken out by Sandstorm.
So close to riches, so close. Dude, I'm so happy that Mud Golems are getting destroyed. And I'm saying destroyed just because they're not going to be the same, and that's all that qualifies for them being destroyed in my book.
I don't know, I love the little Mud Golems. They're hilarious.
I'm pretty sure Heroes of Newerth did this a while ago. I'm just saying.
We Han now.
Oh man, so many people who are like Han veterans are going to be ecstatic because they get the double rune spawn and they get the little golem splits. I don't, that might have not been a thing. I might just be crazy. It is very possible that I'm crazy.
The little golems are actually pretty crazy. If like a Chen gets the Mud Golem and the Mud Golem dies in a fight, both of those little golems have the little boulder toss ability.
Oh, I actually didn't look at the Mud Golems yet. I've like skimmed the patch notes, but that's about all I've done.
Well, in the future we'll
give me your highlight. What's your top patch change?
The Silver Blade item, the Shadow Blade Passage, I think is my new favorite item in Dota.
Isn't that just like a steroided, like a super Shadow Blade, nothing else?
It's a super Shadow Blade that they can't fight against because they're doing less damage and all of their passives are gone.
Oh, well, see, yeah, that's why I just skimmed it. I'm like, oh, Sange Shadow Blade, it says something about going invisible, so it's about the Shadow Blade, except better. It's a strength Shadow Blade. I probably should have read that a little bit closer.
All of the items, I think, are my highlight. They're just so... It's going to be interesting to see how they affect the game, because it's not something that we can really anticipate, because we've never seen them.
Yeah, the, what was it called? The Orangine, whatever?
Octarine Core.
Octarine, yeah, that one. That one looks crazy. That's the cooldown one. And the...
yeah, cooldown and spell lifesteal.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. And also, well, I mean, that's pretty ridiculous on Zeus. Just gonna put that out right there, but... that one and the spell reflecting one. Do you remember the item names?
It's the Lotus Orb.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to remember the item names. That's the part I'm most dreading about this patch. Remembering item names. It's gonna be terrible. Oh, also they added what's it called? Winter Wyvern. I have to remember his skill names also because I just don't know them off the top of my head.
It's Splintervest, Cold Embrace. I don't know what the Q is. And Winter's Curse.
Ice Flight.
Ice Flight. Oh dear.
See, You just have to like get a name to call them, even though it may not be correct. Like I just called like the ancient apparition Ice Blast. You can call that Ice Ball, right? And people would know exactly what you're talking about. Or Ball Lightning is like Storm Spirit's Zip, which for some reason people know what that means, even though it doesn't actually make that much sense. Or it didn't before they actually made him say Zip Zap when he casted it. You just need some sort of nickname for all these casters. For all these spells, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, Rubik has that spell steely thing, the lift. I mean, we call telekinesis lift all the time. Or like Broodmother's spawn spiderlings. There's a couple spell names that are just flat out bad, so you call it like the injection or, I don't know, shoot spiders at them.
Well, to be fair, I think the like flavor text on Broodmother's thing is actually like, quote, she injects her young into the enemy or something like that. So, like, we're just describing what the flavor text is describing. We're being flavorful. We should get points for that.
Yeah, I think so, too. We should also get points for having Sand King back in the game. Unfortunately, I think somebody went for a smoke break, so...
Gotta calm the nerves, man. This 5-minute Dota game is too stressful already.
Who knows? Either way, we'll be back in this game as soon as Bignum has had his smoke. He's contemplating life right now on the Rubik. I think he's done the calculation. He can't turn in telekinesis.
I believe in Bignum's ability to survive. I'm a believer. Bignum, you better not disappoint me right now. I'm just saying that because we have to have one person on either side of Bignum's life. It's like
I think so.
You'll be the devil on his shoulder, and I'll be the angel. Except we're not actually advising him. We're mostly just trying to get him to live or die.
Okay, let's see. What is the best way for me to get Bignum to die? Bignum, just turn around. Don't do anything. Just walk into the Undying.
Yeah, man,
I'm sure
you
it's
could
safe.
take him. You're fine.
Yeah.
Just kill them all.
Man, fight him. Look at your 54 base damage. It's ridiculous.
God, you're so evil. Why would you do that? Did you bet rares on BBC?
Maybe.
Guys, no. When we bet, we don't tell people who we bet on, if we bet at all. All you guys have to know is that we win 100% of the bets that we place.
100%.
Literally 100%, yep. I've made so many chunks of 2 cents because I just win 2 cents every time. It's a ridiculous profit margin.
It adds up over time. I mean, if you don't lose anything, you're making money out of nothing, right?
It's like, I think an infinite profit margin, if you're just getting free money. Is that an infinite profit margin or an undefined profit margin? It's one of them. And either one I'm
business
fine
major.
with. I know, I should know that, right? I'm pretty sure it's
then.
infinite profit margin. But we don't talk about donations as profit because it's not actually profit. And it's pretty much like a donation. So it's not actually profit at all. So if you want to get super technical.
Alrighty then.
I don't want to
the
get
Freezy
super
Burny
technical.
thing from Winter Wyvern is called Arctic Burn.
Arctic Burn. Yeah, I'm going to have to memorize that. Fun times. Just go to the like Dota 2 wiki or whatever and just study. It's time to hit the books. Silverblade OP. Okay, I have to actually look at Silverblade now because I thought that was like the most underwhelming skill because it was just combo.
I think Mango is the most underwhelming one. It's really good for offlane, but I think it's probably the least impactful one. You might buy one Mango a game, but it's not going to turn things around unless you're like a, I don't know,
Storm.
a Nyx. Okay, so Storm, that could be really cool if you could convince your supports to buy mangoes for you, and your supports just like pump mana into you.
That's the best plan I've heard ever. We need some sort of name for it. But
Force feed mangoes to Storm plan?
we need a good name for it.
Alrighty then.
Yeah, I think the most underwhelming one, again, I just skimmed it, was the mech arcane boots combination.
That one I think it is, except for Huskar, because when you're below 20% HP, you get 15 armor and 15 health regen. That sounds ridiculous. I'm not sure if Huskar himself buys it. I think the Oracle with the stupid OP ulti buys it. Oh,
Tombstone is down. See, you didn't believe, man.
Oh,
you didn't believe.
My goodness. Alrighty
Bignum
then.
gets to live. Is he gonna get the last hit as well? Because that would just be, oh my god, Bignum. I'm watching over you. I'm Bignum's guardian angel, confirmed, guys.
That's actually huge, though. 150 gold on a support that you wouldn't have otherwise for free? That's crazy.
And not only that, but now the Tombstone's down for a very long time, so if they're going to make an aggressive play, now's the time to do it. They're going to get the Hex on. We need the lift up as well. Spike is there. Blade Fury, not quite, although it will come in time to blend down the Queen of Pain. Now Levi in a little bit of trouble. Got a 3-man decay, and that's all well and good, but he still is going to take a beating on his way out. Man, that play was huge for Moscow 5. Like, the fact that he gave gold to Bignum, and then they were enabled to go for the Queen of Pain afterwards because there was no Tombstone. That's as good as it gets for Moscow 5.
It really is. It's still at the cost of farm in the other lanes, but regardless, the Queen of Pain dying there is huge. She's also a level 5 hero dying at this point in the game. A lot of experience for Moscow 5's tri lane, and it's going to make it sting less. Clinks up towards top, gets bashed down by Tron. That was mostly by himself. The Storm Spirit and the Sand King were coming from the sidelines, but really do nothing much. Hook eats through a couple of trees, but the Spirit Breaker's home free. That's gigantic. Honestly, I didn't think that was possible.
Especially when Spirit Breaker has no dust or no detection. Clinks, I can only assume, was out of mana. That's the only reasonable explanation there is, but Tron finding him with the Nether Strike with the charge and is still not carrying dust, so it seems like Tron just doesn't give a damn. He's going to find Yapster with the charge. A level 5 Sand King is probably a little bit too much, and by probably I mean definitely, because he has no Nether Strike, so he's just using this to get a little bit closer to the lane. But still, the fact that he killed off Exist is amazing for the Spirit Breaker. The fact that he killed him off alone without any detection is just ungodly.
Now he's the highest level in the game. Spirit Breaker at level 7 is a force to be reckoned with. Maxed out Bash, he's going to be doing so much damage, but it also paints a pretty big target over his head if they can get this gank to work off. The Storm Spirit's been missing for the longest of times from mid, so I'd expect that he thinks something's up, and I think that's a good call. Tron is currently under his tier 1 tower, and it looks like he's going to be safe. This is a lot of wasted time by Hook as well.
And Tron is going to be just fine. He's going to wait for his Nether Strike cooldown, so even if they were to make a dive, he would have that Nether Strike to even potentially turn things around for retaliation kills. So 4-0, Moscow 5 doing a little bit better and better every single kill they get. They're still falling a little bit behind in the CS, and that's why we see BBC with a slight gold lead. They're getting slightly more gold and probably a little bit more gold still as Yapsor actually, he's already cleared out that stack, so he's well on his way to his Blink Dagger, but BBC need to get some kills going so that they could actually get the snowball rolling. We already mentioned that this draft is very momentum based, and if they're not getting any momentum, like right now where they're 4 kills behind, then they're going to be pretty unhappy when the game is pushing 15-20 minutes.
At the moment, Magnus is saving up very close towards his Blink Dagger. I'm not sure if Axmo is going to back off for Arcane Boots or not, but even without it, can start making some fights happen for Moscow 5, and we've talked a lot about the aggressive tools that BBC have. Moscow 5 have some decent ones at their disposal too, although their supports are pretty underleveled. Not really underleveled, but they're still lacking their ultimates. They can still make things happen, especially the Spirit Breaker and Mag. I'd like to see them roam around pretty aggressively, especially with the Urn pickup from the SB. Tombstone down towards bottom, again going to do next to nothing except for kill off poor Bignum. This time around he's going to die, but in mid, Storm Spirit dies to the RP of Axmo, pulling him back into the Omni Slash. It's still a win for Moscow 5 across the map.
Yeah, Bignum finally dies to that combination, forced out the Sonic Wave and the Tombstone just to kill off that Rubik because of his TP out, but they end up getting the trade. Storm Spirit is not a hero that BBC are going to be happy to lose at this stage. Hell, you're never happy to lose your Storm Spirit. Even if it's like a 1v3 trade, you're always a little bit sour about that. But ZXC getting some blood on his hands over in mid, and now he's going to start clearing out the jungle with Empower. They don't have any Ancient stacks up yet, Moscow 5. But importantly for Axmo, as you mentioned, not only the Blink Dagger, but the fact that kills and just free laning gets him more experience, which of course gets him more Empower, which gets the Juggernaut more farm. So it just has this whole cascadey effect for Moscow 5 every single time the Magnus is involved in a kill or even just a little bit of pressure like we just saw in the mid lane.
Yeah, even after a pretty slow start for the Juggernaut, he's now second highest in net worth. After being involved in 3 kills, ZXC is pretty much back on track when it comes to where you'd like to be on a Juggernaut. It's the Mask of Madness and Aquila up and running. 2 supports down towards bottom are being stocked out by the BBC's lineup almost in its entirety, or at least there's Storm Spirits here. He's going to Ball Lightning down. He gets some flying vision of the line over in the sidelines. Pulling back Slander. He's going to be able to burst down this line in a heartbeat. There's going to be an Earth Spike, but that's hardly going to stop them. TPing under the Tombstone. Tron's going to charge forward for Hook with the Haystream. Storm Spirit's pretty darn fast, but eventually that's going to connect. Looking for the bash. Can Tron get this kill? He has another strike. Going to be forced to spend that. He might be able to kill off the Storm Spirit by himself with no mana on Hook. It looks like he's going to go down. Tron just needs a little bit more. No Urn charges available. Yet another charge. One more smack and Tron gets the kill. Wee is doing his best to repel him, but the Barrier Breaker's too tanky. Double kill for Tron, and now looking for more. Wee gets his Scream stolen, making him not enough mana to continue that chase. However, still a big win for Moscow 5.
That wasn't even like Spirit Breaker getting broken bash luck or anything. He got one there, which is, I want to say, just expected value, but still, he was just sticking onto that Storm Spirit so hard. Power treads on both of those heroes, I think, at the time, but Spirit Breaker with the empowering haste just a little bit too fast for that Storm Spirit, and he chased him down to the ends of the earth. Got 2 kills as well, so Tron now 3-0 and 0. He's pretty much well positioned, or as perfectly positioned as you could possibly want from a core Spirit Breaker. Maybe you would want him level 10 so he has maxed out charge, but even with level 3 charge, if he connects that charge to anyone, it's going to hurt like hell. ZXC though, he's going to run into 2 heroes, has Omni Slash and Spin, so he should not die here unless he messes up. And it looks like BBC, they won't even try for it. They do force out a TP of the Rubik, but I'm pretty sure Bignum was going to come in anyway.
Invis Rune on Axmo and Blink Dagger for the Magnus. They're going to bump into Levi. Levi got body blocked there for a second. Doesn't look like he knows what's going on. He's going to get skewered back in after the Hex. He's going to drop the Tombstone, trying to bring in some help with the Storm Spirit and Sand King coming from the sidelines. So kill off Axmo and Slender in a heartbeat. He can't even get off the RP. Nice turnaround coming out from BBC, set up by the Blink Dagger on Sand King.
Man, they thought that they could get the burst onto that Undying before he was actually able to drop the Tombstone and before he actually got support. They had Finger of Death there, and that's really the only reason why they actually went for that, but Finger of Death available doesn't mean that it's actually going to be used, and Levi gets to slip away. Sand King providing some serious support, not to mention Hook support as well, but finally turning things around for 2 kills. Bringing him down towards bottom, going to drop pretty low, but it's now Weave's going to get charged up. Greater Bash, no, not available, but they don't need it. They have the Nether Strike. So Tron still not rolling super lucky, but doesn't really matter. They get the kill on the Queen of Pain, and Bignum steals a big spell in that Sonic Wave. So this Rubik is packing a cannon right now, 8-4. And BBC, though, they are getting a tower in the mid lane. That's all well and good. I don't think they're really snowballing as much as they would really like at this point. They're going to find Slander, however. YapzOr has a Blink Burst Strike. Will get hit with the spike, though, from across the trees. That was blind from Slander. That was accidental. YapzOr has to get the hell out of there, but there's an RP from Axmo after a Blink. He has a Skewer on Shockwave. 2-man Burst Strike as YapzOr tries to get some distance, but Axmo's not going to let this one get away. There's Dust onto YapzOr, plus a Bash for good measure from Tron. That's a dominating streak in Spirit Breaker, and Hook lays a full mana pool, but he definitely doesn't want to jump into that. That was the most unfortunate Sand King positioning I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was a max range Earth Spike, and Slander, whether he knew it or not, is able to not only get a kill, zip in mid. They're looking for Axmo. Hook drains a lot of his mana pool, but it looks like he's going to be able to get it, although the Skewer back buys Axmo a little bit of space away from the Queen of Pain. Looks like it's still going to be lethal. Charge forward, however, onto Hook. He's completely tapped out with no Soul Ring cooldown. Tron is going to come in like a bullet train, dropping the urn, looking for a bash. He's going to find it, too. With Juggernaut coming in, Hook's going to die in a 1-for-1 trade.
Tron is getting just so much farm, and, well, I guess gold because he's farming enemy heroes, which is sometimes better than creeps. 5-0-1 with 2,200 gold. He's heading towards a secret shop. I was going to say Hyperstone, maybe. That would be pretty ballsy from him, but also like a fantastic item just to keep up this snowbally Spirit Breaker game. I don't think Tron is a player that automatically goes for Shadowblade. He might be. It's I don't know, but Shadowblade is definitely an item that Spirit Breakers do like buying, at least in games that I've seen. So if you're looking to keep up the pressure, then that seems like a pretty reasonable way to go.
I would love to see Shadowblade or Armlet for Tron. Either of those would be wonderful for fighting right now. And at the moment, BBC supports can't really afford to drop sentries everywhere. The Shadowblade should be able to get a decent amount of value. Only time will tell. Just going straight for a BKB would also be nice, although it doesn't maybe scale as well into late. It's still pretty darn good. They're going to get a charge onto Exist. He's currently invis inside the woods. The Clinks himself is pretty susceptible to dying just as Spirit Breaker, but he has backup, so the charge is going to be canceled out by Tron.
Yeah, and Exist doesn't even know that he was in trouble right there. By the way, guys, BBC do have a Clinks in this game. He's been just farming it up, pretty much playing the PvE role, which for BBC is kind of what they want, but not forever. So Exist, he has to step up and actually start these fights, or at least get involved in these fights soon enough. Otherwise, BBC just won't have the firepower necessary to take Moscow 5 in a heads-up fight. So they will defend their mid lane right now. Wee and Hook took down the bottom tier 1 in the meantime and got quite a bit of gold off of that one. Wee's sitting on close to his Yule Scepter, well, pretty much completed Yule Scepter right now, so Queen of Pain will, hopefully for her, keep herself pretty safe with that item, and BBC, with now 2 towers to their name, can actually start to look towards Roshan. They don't really have the best Roshan killing lineup. I don't think they have a medallion just yet, but it is something that they can do just because they have so much damage.
Yeah, and while Exist, I'll draw attention to his item choice this game. It looks like we're in for a Deso Clinks. The amount of damage you can pump out is ridiculous. So even though BBC have gotten off to a slow start, they're starting to get tools that are going to help them fight, even though they didn't get as much value maybe out of the Undying in particular as they wanted to. It is going to be a Shadow Blade for the Spirit Breaker after all, but Shadow Blade or not, this Roshan's going to go down for BBC. Looks like a double life for Hook.
The Desolator on Clinks is a really good aggressive build, but it does require a lot of space so that he could actually sit in the back lines and fire. If you get stunned by an RP or a charge or anything like that as Clinks, you're just going to die because that Desolator doesn't really help you survive. So it's up to the rest of the BBC side to actually enable this Desolator Clinks build to actually work out, and it will of course be very difficult. They're going to need the Undying to place a pretty good tombstone, and they're just going to need good inherent positioning, but we up towards top lane is going to get Shadow Bladed in the dome, and then just a couple of hits from Tron is going to kill off the Queen of Pain. Slander technically there with the Hex, and yes, the Rubik technically got the kill, but man, Tron just destroyed the Queen of Pain's health pool.
Yeah, at this point in the game, you don't necessarily expect the Spirit Breaker to have a Shadow Blade, and even very mobile heroes like Storm or Queen of Pain can be ganked by it if you just get one lucky bash or have a little bit of backup, and I think Tron got both. Either way, BBC, I think this Aegis is going to give them enough space for the Desolator Clinks to do its work, especially for these tier 2 towers. As scary as it is for the damage it applies to heroes, I think it's even more scary for the pushing power that it's going to offer for BBC. Although they're still leaking heroes. Over towards the sidelines, Undying's going to poke his head up to the high ground as Moscow 5 have successfully pushed a tier 1 tower top.
So they get the tower, and they will fall back to try to defend the mid lane. BBC, they have everyone alive right now. They have the Blink Epicenter up on the Sand King. This is the time to fight for them. Ideally, though, they would rather wait for the Deso to be completed on Exist, but they don't really have super amounts of time for that. RP onto Exist. They stun off Hook on the sidelines. Finger Death is there, but Hook gets away. They're going to chase forward for Exist with Tron, and it looks like that Spirit Breaker should have enough to kill off this Clinks by himself. Hook, you turn things around to try to kill off Bignum. He's going to burn a lot of his mana pool. Bignum is actually going to get the kill here. That's only the Aegis, however. Exist still alive, and he's chasing after Bignum. He will get that kill. Exist. Tron and Axmo trying to get this kill. They will eventually, but Rubik's actually going to buy back. Tron on the front lines doesn't have a Shadow Blade. He's going to charge through everyone. YapzOr channeling the Epicenter is going to jump right in with a 2-man Burrow Strike, 3-man Burrow Strike instead with a Sonic Wave over the top. ZXC is going to die. Levi's still charging forward in that Flesh Golem form. Blink forward from Wee. He gets a double. Bignum steals Epicenter. He'll get the kill on the Undying with it, but it's Wee to collect a triple kill and a 4-for-4 trade. That was such a messy fight, and it's not over actually because Spirit Breaker's coming in hot. With this dust is there, blink out from the Queen of Pain, but you can't blink from a cow like that. Gotta use them, and they do just that. We should be fine from this one. But man, that required Rubik to buy back, so I guess it was a 5-for-4 trade, although BBC did also use the Aegis. That was probably as even as they come.
Yeah, especially in a fight like that, absolute bloodbath. I really like the decision of the Storm. He was really low, but he had a decent chunk of mana. So he decides to go into the backlines, drops both of the supports as the rest of his team dukes it out, and that really is kind of what set that up for BBC. But then again, Moscow 5 with their ultimate cooldowns did so much work. Slander's going to be caught out by Hook, and this is a pretty straightforward kill for the Storm Spirit when he catches support out like that solo, set up by this Observer Ward. There's not much you can do.
Alright, so that fight didn't really display the whole ideal team fight for BBC. I think that's also important to note. Exist was running away for most, if not all of that. It let Hook and Wee just go off, and that's sometimes what you need, especially when you're talking about Hook and Wee as players. They love to just get a little bit of free time and then just kill everybody, but Exist, he has a lot more damage potential that he has to offer the team, and if Moscow 5 are unable to kill off Exist and really just lock down and kill off the Storm and Queen of Pain, then they're going to be on the back foot. One-man RP, though, sometimes is nice at this point when you're up against this many mobile heroes, is not really going to cut it for Axmo in the future.
And the Desolator is now up for the Clinks, even though he is very reliant on having the ultimate up inside the fights to be survivable or stay in the fights at all, really. Exist is now going to get a major leap in power when his raw damage is concerned. We'll just have to see how they're going to use this. The Aegis down, BBC are going to be less inclined to look for a straight 5-on-5 fight, especially since the ultimates are cooling down for Moscow 5. Finger of Death is back up at the same time that Epicenter is near enough. BBC are going to push down towards bottom, where Moscow 5 are clumped up top.
And it's going to be really hard for Moscow 5 to outrace Clinks with the Desolator. Hell, even Clinks without Desolator, it's hard to outrace, but he will be charged. They will TP some heroes back. This charge should be canceled by Tron, unless he's feeling particular baller, which he's not. He will call it quits, but still, he's a 5/05 Spirit Breaker. Takes a lot to bring this cow down, and, well, Moscow 5, they're just going to hold on to that tier 2 right now. They don't get much in exchange, but they are also farming pretty rapidly onto ZXC. He is working with a lot of net worth right now, is well on his way to his Manta style, and the Empower can even get stronger. Up towards top, Wii is getting charged. He thinks he's safe, and he actually will be safe, because the charge is once again going to be cancelled.
Without having vision of the enemy team, it's a little bit too risky to go for that tier 2 tower dive. Everybody, although they were down towards the Ancients, Moscow 5 had no idea. So Spirit Breaker is going to exercise a little bit of caution there. I was really interested to see how quickly Queen of Pain could react to that, but at nighttime, the time for him to use up the Spirit Breaker was almost non-existent at all. But regardless, he's going to live to, I don't know, do Queen of Pain things another day. Inside mid lane, there's going to be a charge onto Levi this time around. Should be a kill for the Spirit Breaker or for the Juggernaut. Let's see who's going to get it. They're going to get it. Blinken, Burrow Strike catches up both Tron and ZXC. Maybe both of them are going to survive, or rather, Levi is going to survive. The Undying living up to his name with a couple of heals and a decay stack. That's a huge turnaround for BBC.
That's the second time that's happened as well. Moscow 5 just they keep thinking that Levi is a support, he's an easy kill, but he's a level 11 hero. 20 minutes in the game, it's not the most impressive, but it's certainly good enough, especially for someone who could amplify his own strength by so much. So Moscow 5, they hold on to the Omni Slash there as well because there were so many creeps, and Levi gets to walk away. Storm and Sand King once again bailing him out. Now towards bottom though, they're going to catch Bignum with Hook. Spike is there. Sonic Wave will clip the Rubik and will get the kill. Hook sticking up. One more hit will kill him off. No, it won't. He gets bottled by Wii. What a play from the Queen of Pain. And they let Hook survive. At the same time, over towards mid, Axmo blinks in. He's going to try to defend his tier 2, but Exist is hot on his tail with a Desolator damage. RP is there. Not much follow-up. However, Exist taking a hell of a lot of damage. He's going to man fight it out, and he will survive because Levi draws the aggro. Oh my god, BBC making some spectacular plays. Exist is going to TP back home. He'll be safe. The bottle from the Queen of Pain, the aggro draw from the Undying. These are some slick plays from BBC. Tron's still on the hunt, though. Is probably going to kill off this Undying finally. Although Yapzor is here, you can't really protect against that Nether Strike. He'll get the Burrow Strike in and grab the regen rune, but still, it's a small price to pay for what BBC just gained.
Look at the net worth graph. It's a vertical drop down in favor of BBC after those small skirmishes. All it took was just a little bit of a push, and BBC are right back onto their feet. The experience is now vastly in their favor. And net worth also, this is going to translate into some pretty big items down the line. Bloodstone up for the Storm Spirit. He's very close to it, only about 800 gold or so. Queen of Pain has a Midas and is going to be working towards the Scythe of Vice. Clinks is going to be working towards what appears to be a Heaven's Halberd or SNY. Either way, Exist currently caught out now as we speak about the Clinks. He's going to get his Invis stolen as Victim chases forward. He has a lift at the ready. Juggernaut trying to get in range for an Omni Slash, but this is probably a little too deep to dive. Clinks is sitting on about 2k HP with the deck packed up. Tron's going to cancel a charge over to the left, and that seems to be all she wrote.
They will keep Exist alive for a little bit longer. He's very, very tanky, as you said, with this probably Sanjin Yasha build, I want to say. If he does end up eating a creep beforehand, he's going to get a huge leap in health. That was about 600 HP that he got from whatever creep he actually ate there. I didn't get a good look at that, but it doesn't matter anyway. So Exist is a much more difficult kill than Moscow 5 would really like to have at this point. Same thing for Levi. Hell, same thing for everyone. Hook is probably the easiest kill. You wouldn't really expect that from a Storm Spirit, but he really doesn't have all that much. Never mind, he has a completed Soul Boost, he has a completed Bloodstone pretty much, so yeah, never mind about that. Hook is also pretty darn difficult to kill, so pretty much everyone on BBC are going to be hard targets. And for Moscow 5 to have hard targets when they're holding onto a Finger of Death, a Nether Strike, and a super farm Juggernaut, that's almost unheard of.
Juggernaut is going to have his Manta style, so maybe that's going to help a little bit in killing off these heroes coming out from BBC, but not near enough, it seems. Also, a lot of the BBC heroes have ways that they can use to survive an Omni Slash. In particular, Yule Scepter up for the Queen of Pain, and just a ball lightning away from the Storm. The lockdown they have for Storm is nice and all, but Moscow 5 need everybody in position, and without a Blink Dagger up for the Lion or the Rubik, that's pretty hard. Rubik is in fact gone for a very tanky build. Bignum's committed into half of an Aghanim Scepter, Point Booster, and Overclub.
And that's a pretty nice build, I suppose. You get Sand King Amplification, Undying, and Queen of Pain ultimates. Those are all pretty darn good if you are able to steal those, but yeah, I don't really know about this build for Bignum. If he has the Skeleton Walk all the time, then yeah, you don't really need a Force Staff or Blink Dagger, but I think in general I would rather have a Rubik just with the ability to initiate over a little bit of a better spell steal.
Yeah, for sure. The Aghanim's upgrades he can get this game are pretty limited outside of getting Epicenter, which is pretty good, and Sonic Wave, but I don't think it's worth getting the item for that. More than anything, it's probably just for chain stealing spells. Either way, it's going to get some scouting out. Bignum is currently undetected. Let's see if it's going to stay that way. It looks like that's going to be the case. He's being a nuisance of himself, but now there's a gem on the Sand King. This could catch him off guard if they get this sooner rather than later. There's charge into mid coming out from Tron. They're going to look again to go for this Undying. He's left alone. The Rubik's there, and well, Tron cancels.
Good, because the last 2 times weren't really great for them when they tried that, so I can't really imagine the 3rd time going that much better. Bignum is finally going to get spotted, so they know that this Rubik now has the Skeleton Walk stolen, and the gem, as you said, still might be a surprise. It's actually not YapzOr to hold it right now. Who actually has that? Probably Storm? No? Where the hell did the gem go? Okay, they don't have a gem anymore. Oh, there, it's on the courier, and it is YapzOr to hold it. So they were just hiding the gem from the enemy side so that they could smoke up, and they're going to go hot now towards the bottom river area. Roshan is going to be up in just a matter of seconds right now. So BBC, they're looking for a pickoff so that they could claim this Roshan easier, and that pickoff, if anyone, is probably going to be this Lion.
Yeah, at the moment, Slender's looking very susceptible to a gank. Unfortunate for them that Roshan isn't up yet, but they might stick around to see him come up. If they do, Exist can take this out in a mere matter of seconds. He's going to walk in the pit and make a beeline turn right back into it. With a Desolator and with Strafe popped, Clinks can do this probably by himself if he has Death packed up. BBC for the time being, however, exercising a little bit of caution. Honestly, I think they should have gone for it. Although, at the moment, they don't have great vision of the enemy team. In fact, they see nothing.
Yeah, both sides with pretty good vision, but that's not going to be the best situation for BBC. At least they need Exist to have that death pack damage and health up if they're actually going to go for that. And he will go into the hard camp, grab one, and then probably just go in for the Roshan by himself. Again, he doesn't really have that much support as far as Roshan killing power is concerned. Like, even their heals are marginal at best. It's Levi with the Soul Rip, and with no units around, Soul Rip's not going to do that much. But they do have YapzOr in a perfect position right now, and he still has that gem hidden in Axmo. He's going to close in, blow the smoke, blink up, RP onto Wii. If they can focus down on the Kunapane, that'll be huge, and they do, but the epicenter comes in. It's focused onto ZXC only. He's the only one taking damage, and he will maybe go down, but not without using the Omni Slash first. He'll kill off YapzOr, and he's still going to survive. Now grabs the gem. Exists, trying to fight up with Levi against Tron and Slander, but they're both being driven away by the cow. In the meantime, ZXC, he's forcing out Wii, who has just, I believe, bought back, and he will. ZXC dropping pretty low, but the illusions that he got, he's going to peel away successfully. Wee's looking for another target. They buy back with the Clinks as well, but Axmo's the one who's still roughing them up. Wee is going to start kiting this Magnus. Magnus doesn't really have many places to go, but he gets the Skewer off. One more hit as well. He connects on the Queen of Pain. Is he going to be able to survive out of this one? Because I don't think Moscow 5 have lost a single hero yet. He's going to get out just fine. BBC, they're still trying to go for the Roche, but you know who's coming in? It's Tron, because he's always charging. And I don't think they're doing this fast enough. Exist, he's going to pop the strafe, but the timing is so bad. They might not kill off the Roshan and get the Aegis, because here comes the cow. Exist is going to have to peel away. Right now, Tron's going to go straight towards Levi. The clap is going to destroy Levi and Exist both as BKB goes up on Tron. They'll focus down the Clinks. They'll bring him down in a matter of seconds. Now going towards Levi. Fade Bolt, lift up, and Levi's not going anywhere. They grab the Roshan. They grab the Aegis. A huge win for Moscow 5. Somehow the Magnus dies. I don't really know what he was doing. But you know what? Moscow 5 get like a 5-for-1 or a 4-for-1 or something like that. They steal the Roshan, steal the Aegis. They force out buybacks. It actually doesn't get better than that.
No, it doesn't. It's a dieback on the Queen of Pain and Clinks too. After buying back, they both lose their lives. This game is so topsy-turvy. Just a mere couple of minutes ago, we saw BBC absolutely clown on Moscow 5 in a couple of skirmishes, but that feels like it's almost backbreaking, I want to say. Not only do they not get the Aegis, now it's in the hands of ZXC. He didn't lose it. He's going to have a full Scotty up. And this push is so very scary for them. Everything was so spread out, and that seemed to favor Moscow 5 by a wide margin. The Sand King wasn't able to find the best initiations, and although the Queen of Pain and Storm Spirit tried their best to kite around Moscow 5, it didn't seem to work. And then Clinks couldn't finish off that Roshan, even though Deso Clinks is really good in the Roche pit. By himself, it's not near enough, especially when you get bashed a couple times by Tron. I was a little bit afraid for the Spirit Breaker that he wouldn't be able to contribute the next couple of fights, but my goodness, I was wrong. 7-1 and 8. Tron is having a great game.
And I think there were really two big things that set up that fight for Moscow 5. One, the fact that they got the jump on the Queen of Pain and bursted her down before she can get anything off. That was the Finger of Death being committed, and at this point, it is level 2. I believe it was level 2 at the time of usage, although it could have just been level 1. Either way, they kill off the Queen of Pain, and also the BBC side, they invest pretty much everything that they have, the Blink, Burrow Strike, Epicenter, a lot of focus from the Storm Spirit, into trying to kill off the Juggernaut. And they couldn't kill off the Juggernaut. He got his Omni Slash off, and then he just ran away. And with the Healing Ward, he'll be able to return pretty freely. So basically Moscow 5 start things off 4v5. They burn the epicenter from BBC, and they don't really lose anything in exchange. And from there on out, you have the numbers advantage, you have pretty much the cooldown advantage, you have everything in advantage. Even fighting through so many extra lives from BBC, Moscow 5 pull it all together. So, as you said, it's a huge victory, and I'm kind of sad that we're paused right now because I can't really see the full change in the net worth graph, but you mentioned vertical changes, man. This is just, like, as spiky as it gets.
It really is. It's actually quite incredible. It's straight down, then it goes straight back up right after the fact. Another big issue is that even when the Queen of Pain joined the fight, she wasn't able to do very much. She got inside melee range of the Juggernaut, and he messed up the Queen of Pain. She was forced to blink away, try to be so defensively play so defensively for the majority of that fight, and in the end, it only took just a little bit more damage to push Wii over the edge. She was playing a dangerous game to begin with, and also the Hand of Midas. I think it's really going to start biting the Queen of Pain, or at the very least, it did in that fight. If they had a completed item on the Queen of Pain instead of the Midas, that would have gone a lot better. Although it is probably going to get her to level 16 faster than she would have otherwise. It didn't matter in the end. That 2,000 gold was kind of just dead weight.
Yeah, in that particular fight, it didn't really do that much. And BBC really banking on the fact that the next fight would be going slightly better, since hopefully for the Queen of Pain, she'll have something completed with that Midas by the time that next fight rolls around. But by the time that actually does happen, this Juggernaut is going to have, at the very least, a completed Eye of Scotty. So if you do decide as BBC to focus down this Juggernaut again and just burn everything you have on him, well, you're definitely not going to kill him off this time, because you couldn't kill him off last time when he didn't have the Eye of Scotty. So ZXZ is going to be an absolute monster. Tron, well, he has BKB completed, Shadowblade as well. Even if he doesn't get any more items for the rest of the game, which isn't going to happen, he's probably going to get something. He's going to have some huge impacts. If he could find an Assault Cuirass or something like that, then he's just going to be an absolute monster. He could lock down and solo kill the likes of Exist. And if you trade Spirit Breaker for Clinks, for Moscow 5, you're going to be pretty happy.
And the same can't really be said for, especially VBC's Storm Spirit. You went for this Bloodstone first, and then they lose the fight immediately after the fact, and he's not farming particularly well. Hook has really fallen to a point where he's not able to contribute comfortably because of the raw amount of lockdown that Moscow 5 have, and with no way to counteract it, and no real way to kill off any of the Moscow 5 heroes solo. Even the Lion and Rubik, if they are completely alone, of course, Hook can get that kill, but the chances of that happening are so very slim, and if they just get a Hex or a Lift Off, the ability for them to turn around and kill off the Storm is huge. BBC need a little bit more time, but even so, to what end? Juggernaut still has plenty of room to grow, even though he has Manta Scotty, still have an Abyssal probably in his future, and maybe something even on top of that.
And you just said that Bignum is an easy target for Hook. I don't even know if that's true. Like, this Rubik has 1200 HP. He's not messing around when it comes to his health pool. Hook doesn't have any aggressive items at all, so the Storm Spirit is actually going to struggle to kill off Bignum, especially when it's very easy for Rubik in that situation to steal Ball Lightning and get the hell out. So for the Hook Storm Spirit, killing off Bignum is not an easy task. Killing off Slander is really the only way he could do it, and even then, if Slander is a little bit fast with his fingers, he can get the Hex off, he can get Spike, and maybe Finger of Death to at least deter Hook from going for that kill, but hopefully for the Lion to buy enough space for someone else to come in and finish off the Storm. So this Storm Spirit, he doesn't have the damage necessary to actually kill off, I would say, many of these Moscow 5 heroes effectively.
Yeah, after that fight, BBC now have a lot of blaring weaknesses inside their heroes. Queen of Pain doesn't really have anything to contribute outside of a raw burst. Clinks doesn't have enough to sit inside the middle of the fight, and Storm Spirit, although he can sit in the middle of the fight, doesn't have the damage to back that up. They need to fight as a unit in order for them to, I don't know, patch those up and actually take engages. I think BBC, the best way back into this game is probably through smoke ganks, but who do they actually catch out on Moscow 5, and are they actually going to be spread out? I think with this Aegis, it's pretty straightforward for Moscow 5 just to group, especially since they're going to have Blink Force and Shadow Blade on the Magnus for this next fight, more than likely.
He's going to be very, very close to that combination of items. So double Shadow Blades for Moscow 5, perhaps a little bit too heavy into the invis, but as long as it works, then it works, right? They will group up on the bottom lane, I'm sure, after this Magnus responds. There is a tier 1 tower to take. They probably don't even need their full 5-man squad for that, but hell, they aren't really in any rush. They could take this pretty slowly because they are getting so much farm into ZXC, or they could just go for it. And it looks like they will probably poke at the tier 1 tower. BBC might take a fight here simply because they have the element of surprise and the burst power necessary, and this tier 1 tower tends to lead to close quarters combat. So Epicenter Tombstone gets some extra value there, but if Moscow 5 don't go for it, that's completely fine with them since they are getting pretty far ahead.
Yeah, and they also retrieved the gem in that last engagement, so these double Shadow Blades are going to be a lot more attractive than they otherwise would be 30 minutes into the game. Undying really doesn't want to be buying sentries at this point. He wants to finish an item. At the moment, it's just value pickups for him, and pretty similar for the Sand King. He'd really like to get his forest, but I'm not sure if that's going to be a luxury that they can afford.
Especially when the fight is probably going to be coming to them pretty darn quickly. ZXC is just going to bum rush Levi. Just a couple hits, Undying. This time is not going to get bailed out by his teammates because ZXC is so strong just by himself. That was very bold from the Undying to move up there. Bold, nearing suicidal, in fact. So, yeah, ZXC is definitely not a hero you want to mess around with if you're BBC. This tower is definitely going to fall. The tier 2 tower is probably going to fall. So, BBC, I don't think they could defend this. They have to just concede these towers and try to fortify the high ground.
Yeah, that's pretty much their only option. At the moment, Undying's going to be back up relatively soon as Tron goes in for a charge on the YapzOr with the Blink X from the Lion. Follow-up is there if they even need it. The Earth Spike, Nether Strike, he's up in the air, and YapzOr is going to be dropped down just as quickly. That's huge. BBC's high ground defense is not really possible anymore. Sand King has no buyback.
Sand King was the majority of their defense, actually. They have a Sonic Wave, but it's not Aghanim, so they can't really throw that out willy-nilly to try to clear out the Creep Wave. They need the Tombstone and or the Epicenter, and they'll have the Tombstone, but right now they don't have Exist. He's cleaning up a tier 2, so at least the BBC side gets something. But it's a tier 2 for a tier 3 trade. Levi's going to drop his Tombstone. ZXC, he has Omni Slash and he sees a target, but he's going to clear out the Tombstone, do the responsible thing. Eul Scepter there from Wii. Blink forward, Axmo going to connect only onto Wii with the RP. They'll drag him back, but they'll fail to kill him off. At least ZXC is trying to. Sonic Wave is out, but ZXC gets the kill on the Queen of Pain regardless. Tron focusing down Exist is going to take him out of the fight as Slander. He's being focused down by Hook, but it's only a line. Even if he does go down, Omni Slash now is going to be used to kill off the Storm Spirit, and it's still bouncing through. Exist and Levi dropping very low, and they're going to drop so low, in fact, that they're going to die. That's ZXC surviving. That's everyone on Moscow 5 surviving. They still have the Aegis as well. This is looking like game. The Sand King's back, and he's using his Epicenter. Pretty nice one onto 2, but at this point, he's all alone. He can't do anything, especially when the Epicenter is stolen by the Rubik. Now skewered back. YapzOr can't even leave. That's a GG call. 31 minutes in. Moscow 5 with 31 kills. Clean house.
There was that one bad fight for Moscow 5, but even so, it felt like it was only a speed bump for them. They so very quickly picked up the momentum after that. And really, BBC's lineup, rather, was very precarious. If it exploded, it could have been amazing. But in the end, they never were really able to light that fuse. Moscow 5 are up game 1.
Guys, this is, of course, game 1 of the best of 3, so BBC have one more chance to bring it to a third and final game. This has been the Yard G2A Festival. Again, use the Yard code at G2A for 3% off, and that should be some pretty sick value for you. But for right now, I'm Mikelorus. I'm joined by GrandisV, and we will be right back for game 2. Don't go anywhere, guys.